Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in this tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. In the last few months, I've gotten quite a few new subscribers, which has been mind-blowing and incredible, and I'm super grateful to all of you who are new, and I am super grateful to all of you who aren't new and who have stuck with me since I started this channel back at the end of 2019 or whenever you subscribed. Sophie, don't eat the blanket. So because I have so many new people and I'm getting the very similar questions from a lot of people that are new, fairly new, what I thought I would do today is just a quick little Q&A, a little bit about me, just so that you can be familiar with who I am and why I'm doing this. So I've written down the questions that I've been getting the most lately so that we could go over them. So I have my notes, and hopefully after this video you'll know me a little bit better. I would love to know a little bit more about you. I get so excited when I hear in the comments below the videos who you are and where you're from. That is so cool to me, that this YouTube media can reach so many people so far away. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's just get started with some of the questions that I get the most. Who am I? My name is Adelina, as I say at the beginning of every video. And yes, I live in a tiny house on wheels. I didn't always, obviously. My background is I was actually born in Portugal, and I came to Canada when I was 4 years old. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and when we came to Canada, I had never seen snow before. And my dad, who had come to Canada obviously years before, even before he got married, had worked in every province in this country, and he settled up in the Northwest Territories, working for Cominco Mines. It was actually the largest open pit mine in North America, in a little town called Pine Point. And that's when he sent for us. So I went from never having seen snow to living in the Northwest Territories until I was finished grade 11. A long time. Snow was an exciting novelty at first. I got really tired of it really quick, and that is one of the reasons that I really want to move to a place where snow is not 6-7 months of the year. It's kind of a novelty and everybody gets excited about it, because I've had enough snow in my life to last more than one lifetime. And I'm not really a winter sports kind of girl. I'm not very coordinated. I'm not very athletic. But we did do a heck of a lot of winter sports in gym when I was in school. I am a mother of 2 children. I have a 28-year-old son and a 22-year-old trans daughter. And I became a single parent when the kids were 4 and 10. And the kids and I are super close, and I have been grateful every single day of my life that I've had them. And if I've always said that if there is nothing else that I'm known for when I leave this world, if I'm known for being a good mother, then my life will have had meaning, because for me, that's the most important thing that I could ever do. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, what do I do for a living, and is YouTube my job? No, YouTube is not my job. It is something that I started doing at the end of 2019. At the end of 2019, I uploaded my first video. So, and it was a very slow process getting used to this medium, learning how to film. I actually hate seeing myself on video. I hate the way I sound on audio. So I've had to really get used to that. But why did I start the channel? I started the channel because I kept getting the same questions over and over again from people who were really intrigued about tiny houses on wheels, intrigued about tiny living, and just were asking me these questions. So it made sense to me to just start a channel, and I told myself that I would keep making videos as long as there were things to talk about. I've since branched out a little bit. Now I do more than just the tiny house related stuff, and you know, into more lifestyle sort of topics, and I love it. But it's not my full-time job, though I do earn a little bit of revenue from it, as you will see, because you will see ads pop up. If you really want to help the channel grow, then please subscribe if you're not already, and give the videos a thumbs up if you like them, a thumbs down if you don't, because that still counts. YouTube still likes any interaction, but I hope it's a thumbs up that you give it, and I really hope that you subscribe if you're not already, and become of this part of this amazing family that we have here, because you guys are awesome. So what do I do for my day job? I work in the financial services industry. But I am not an advisor. I don't sell or anything like that. And I am designated. That's about as much as I'm going to say about that. I have a fairly stressful daytime job, but I am 100% a teleworker. Now, I was almost 100% teleworker pre-pandemonium, and now I am full-time teleworker and will continue to be, even if, when, hopefully when, soon, the world gets back to some semblance of normality. And I love it, because that means I get to work from my tiny house. That means I get to have Soph here beside me when I work. And I'm an introvert, so that really suits me just fine. And the nice thing is, when I move the tiny house, I can keep my job. I don't have to, I can work from anywhere that I am, as long as I have internet connection. So that's what I do. And that's the bit about the YouTube. Question number 3. Cat hair. There's always cat hair somewhere. Number 3. Why did I go tiny? Which is one of probably the most common questions that I have. Well, I've always loved small spaces, campers, things like that. Pre the tiny house, I had a townhouse style condo that was just under or just over 1,100 square feet. It was a 2-bedroom. The kids shared for a while, and then I made the laundry room downstairs next to the garage into a 2nd bedroom for my oldest, because they're 6 years apart, and they needed a little privacy from each other. But it really was a great little place, but even then it seemed like too much space for me, especially once the oldest moved out. And it was just Jamie and I. There was just more room than I needed, and I just filled it with more stuff than I needed, which I think is not unique to me. So one of the things that I've always loved, like I said, is small spaces. I really love how cute they are, how functional they can be. The first time I ever saw a tiny house on wheels, I knew it was for me. Absolutely fell in love with them and couldn't wait to make it a reality. I had to wait until both of the kids had grown up a little bit. So I spent about 4 or 5 years dreaming about it before I was able to actually put the deposit down and get the build started. But that was good, because that gave me a lot of time to really get clear in my head about what I wanted for my tiny house. The reasons to go tiny for me, and they're different for everybody else, was just to have a simpler lifestyle, to reduce my expenses, so that I could spend my money on experiences versus things. It forced me to get rid of the majority of the things that I owned, which I never used anyways. And that was very freeing. And it gives me the flexibility to perhaps retire a little earlier, or not have to work full time as long as I would have otherwise. My townhouse was a condo, so I had a couple of special assessments where they go to all of the owners, and basically you're required to put money in for certain repairs, one of which was very expensive. So I had the mortgage payment, I had the condo fees, I had the potential special assessments, and and all these restrictions as to what you could do, because it was a condominium. And I was tired of that. I wanted more control over my life, and I wanted to have less stress, less financial stress and worries. So that was a big reason for going tiny. I also wanted the ability to move my house. If I move to Vancouver Island or wherever I go, I don't want to have to incur the time and expense and stress of selling one house in one place and then having to purchase somewhere else, just to do that again if you have to move or want to move. And when you own a tiny house on a custom built trailer, you move your house with you. And that's really empowering, and just to me means so much freedom. So that is really the biggest reason, those two reasons, the financial, removing a lot of the financial stress in my life and giving me more freedom to move my home wherever I want to go in the future, was really huge. And those two reasons are the primary reasons why a tiny house on wheels was the option that I chose and made the most sense for me. How long have I lived in the tiny house on wheels? I have lived in Serendipity for just over 2 years. It was 2 years in July of this year, and I am headed into my third winter in the tiny house, which has been great. So I made sure that I built with a builder who knew how to build for cold climates, so the house is very toasty in the winter. But yeah, I've been here just over 2 years. Here's a big question that I get a lot, and I do have a whole video on the cost of the tiny house, how much it costs to live here, how much it costs to build, all of the details on that. But I will give you the Coles Notes version, the short version. The house cost just under 148,000 Canadian, and that is, remember, that's Canadian dollars, and that included the custom built trailer that it's on, all of the custom cabinetry inside the house, all of the appliances, fittings, all of that stuff. I went wider. The house is 9.5 feet wide, and I went 37 feet long from the front of the gooseneck to the back here of the trailer. It is a gooseneck trailer. So I get comments about how that's expensive, that people could, I've had enough comments of people saying, well, I could buy a house where I live for that amount. Absolutely. Is it the cheapest tiny house that you'll see on YouTube? Absolutely not. But I didn't set out to build the cheapest tiny house. I'd set out to build my dream house, which meant that there were certain things that I wanted, and I wanted it a bigger size, and I wanted a gooseneck trailer, all of which are more expensive. So for me, that's excellent value. I was just at an RV dealership this weekend, and there was an Airstream trailer there for $400,000. So another question or comment that I get is, why didn't I just buy an RV? I wanted a tiny house on wheels because it's framed like your foundation built house. It's 2x4, not 2x6, but it's still wood framed, and it is spray foam insulated, and it's very, very well built. It's built like a house versus an RV. Not that they can't be beautiful, but I wanted something that I could live in year round, that would be easy to keep warm and feel like a house versus feeling like I'm in a camper. Not that there's anything wrong with living in an RV or a camper. Don't get me wrong, it just wasn't what I wanted. And so, again, I didn't set out to build the cheapest tiny house or the smallest tiny house. I set out to build my dream tiny house. And for me, that was money well spent. Hey. Hi. I get a lot of comments about this old girl. This is Sophie, and she is my best friend. Sorry, Jenny. No, Sophie's just my love. And Sophie is a rescue. We got her when she was probably only a couple months old. I think she was probably about 3 or 4 months old. She turned 14 this November, 2021. And so she's getting on in years. I've always owned a cat as long as I've been alive. My mother was definitely a cat person, and I love them. I do hope to get a puppy one day, a dog one day, because I love all animals, but I will not be doing that while Sophie's alive. She's too old to bring in another animal. What are you doing? Anyway, she's quite the character. She is an attention hog. As soon as I start talking to the camera, she shows up and makes her presence known. And if she's not in videos for a couple of weeks, people start to wonder what's going on with her. Sophie's super healthy, and she loves the tiny house. She didn't like the adjustment of leaving one house and into another. That was very stressful for her. She does not like being in vehicles or anything like that, but she loves the tiny house because there's lots of little nooks and crannies for her to hang out in. She loves being up in the loft and looking down and seeing what's going on, but mostly she just loves being next to me. And she sleeps on a stool right beside my chair when I'm working. And you'll see you'll see a lot more of her in every video, because she seems to know exactly when I'm filming. I get a lot of people asking me, will I always live in the tiny house? Will I ever buy another foundation house? Am I going to buy land? That sort of thing. The answer is, I don't know, and it depends, like so many things in life. I don't know if I'll always live in serendipity. I think I will always live in a small space, because for me that just makes sense. I don't like big houses and big spaces, but would I ever build a house that was on a foundation? Maybe. I've always loved the idea of a tiny little log cabin, small one, with a fireplace, 400 square feet, maybe 500 tops, maybe. But I have no plans to move out of serendipity right now. I love this house. It just feels so much like home. It doesn't feel small to me. So there's no plans for me to change my living situation. I really do like this space. And I love the knowing that I have the flexibility to move it. Right now I rent my parking space because I am in a big city. Down the road, I would consider buying some land to move her onto, and potentially, in my mind, I can see buying a little piece of land that has a bit of a view, hopefully of some water, and then moving serendipity there, maybe building a couple of other smaller tiny houses as almost like bunkies for when the kids come to visit, or friends, maybe renting them out as on Airbnb. I would love to find an old rail car and convert that into a tiny house and have that on the property. Maybe a tiny old church that has been abandoned, and have that disassembled and moved to the property and finished out, so that I had rentals, because I think that this is a lifestyle that a lot of people are curious about and would love to be able to stay in. They may not want to sell their big houses. A lot of people say to me, I love tiny houses, but I could never do it. Absolutely, it's not for everybody. But I think it would be really cool to have some rental units on a property, so that people could come and have their vacations there and get a feel for what it's like to live tiny, and for people who are considering the lifestyle to get a feel for what it really is like, because until you've stepped into a tiny house, you really can't get a sense of what it's going to feel like. It's different than an RV. And so it's cool to be able to actually go into one and see it, but even better would be to be able to stay in one for a few nights, a week or two, and get a real sense of if this makes sense to you, if you could live this way, that sort of thing. So another question that I get is, why did I buy the van? So for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen the van build series, that's one of the playlists on the channel. This year I bought a 2017 Dodge Ram ProMaster cargo van. It was a fleet vehicle for a tire shop. I bought it, and I spent the next couple of months doing a no-build build-out in it. It was totally empty when I bought it. So I've done some installation. I've put in a bed. I've put in a max air fan. Put in 2 bunk windows, swivel seat. I put in a little kitchenette, that sort of thing. And the goal was to make it usable, because I really wanted to get out in it this summer and do some camping and exploring. One of the motivations for getting the van was to be able to take it out to the island, Vancouver Island, and just look at, do some searching or do some scouting for some potential parking spots for the tiny house, because I do want to move the tiny house out of Alberta next summer. but it's also just an adventure mobile. And I love it. I love that it's super comfortable, it's super functional. I just recently uploaded the van tour of it. It's not fully fitted out like these professional builds or these, full conversions that you see. Someday I will do that to it, but in the meantime, I will really want to get a feel for it and the layout and what I want in it. And I was able to do it without spending a fortune, and I was able to do the work myself, other than the installing the furnace, which I didn't do myself, basically because it's hooked up to the gas tank of the van, and I didn't want to do something wrong and blow myself up or start myself on fire. But that's why I've got the van. It still fits in with the theme of the channel because it's tiny living, intentional living, and I really think that it's kind of cool. A lot of people who are interested in tiny houses are also interested in van life or RV life, things like that, adventures, and it really fits in with that. People ask me, well, are you selling the tiny house? I thought you were living in the tiny house. Are you going to move into the van? No, that's not the plan. The plan is not to live in the van. The plan is to stay in the tiny house. But could I ever live in a van? Yeah, I think I could. And would I ever do that? I have no idea. But I could certainly see myself traveling for a few months at a time in it, working out of it while I did that in the future, because it just gives you so much freedom to be able to just drive it anywhere and have everything you need right there. So I really love it. I love the whole experience that I've had in building it out so far, or fitting it out so far, and I look forward to learning carpentry skills and doing a more fixed and permanent build out. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. Right now, I just want to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to getting out and doing some winter camping. I don't know anybody else who's got a van and is interested in doing that lives anywhere near me, but I'm hoping that someday I'll meet some people that have the same interests and that also want to do that sort of thing. My hopes for this channel are to just reach more people who are interested in a tiny lifestyle, living a more minimalist life, though I'm not a minimalist, don't get me wrong, but I am a minimalist in training is how I like to call myself. I want to live a simpler lifestyle. I want to live a more intentional life. I want to prioritize experiences and time with people over things. I love to cook, so I love to share my recipes with people. I eat a plant-based diet. I am vegan, so all of my recipes are plant-based. The reason to have the channel is to give people a real sense of what it's like to live in a tiny house, especially in a climate like we have here in Alberta, a cold climate, and to live this lifestyle, and to answer sort of the questions and curiosities that people have about this whole thing. So there you go. That's a little bit more about me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any other questions. And Sophie and I will see you next Sunday. Take care.